This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report, show made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me, Xander's going to give us this week's topics.
Well, the NBA trade deadline has come and gone, and Jeremy Grant is still a Piston, but Trey Lyles isn't. I guess you win some, you lose some. And Matthew Stafford, speaking of winning some, has won a Super Bowl. I just wish it was 2021. It's a Fan Report.
You know, we've been doing the same exact intro outside of, I want to say, one time on the show, and I still almost screwed it up. My part has never changed. Like, it's almost never changed. Your part changes every week, and I still almost screwed it up.
Transition from being pre-planned and written to just off the top. That's the only thing that's changed. Well, that's the...
Which, honestly, off the top, it feels more natural. Like, I like it off the top better. Mine just straight up, I read it. I honestly should just record it.
We sometimes have to do other takes. Because,
we do.
Because it's off the top.
I mean, even times I screw it up. But I honestly have thought about just recording me saying it and then just hitting a button when we go live. Just to save my energy.
You should.
I should. But then, like, we have issues with trying to make it so you can hear it, so you get your cues. And anyways, that's beside the point.
You just do jumping jacks when it's time for me to talk.
That might be kind of loud, hearing me put down my headphones, jump up out of my chair, and do jumping jacks. I don't think our producers would appreciate that. But
how I wish this was a
I want to
show.
Start things out by saying welcome to all the Detroit Rams fans. I can't even say that with a straight face. The amount of trolling and just fun, we'll call it fun, I've seen on Twitter, Reddit, social media, everything in the last day and a half, 2 days even, has kept me thoroughly entertained. The amount of Detroit Ram shirts I've seen, my favorite meme has been the banner hanging up in Ford Field of our former QB, Super Bowl champion, 2021-2022. That one's my favorite.
Yeah, I was at the mall on Saturday, and I saw the store stocking a bunch of Detroit Ram shirts, and I wanted to just buy them out simply to throw them away. I just wanted to make a video of me throwing a pile of Detroit Ram shirts in the dumpster, and then place a camera there, and then leave it until the dumpster truck takes it and hauls it away.
Like, okay, I get being excited for Stafford. I get even cheering for him 100%. In the Super Bowl. I get it because when it came down to it, at the point in the Super Bowl, you're not rooting for the better draft pick anymore because it was 31 or 32, so it doesn't even matter. That's number one. Number two, like I get wanting to root for him. Like, he was here for 12 years. You want to see him succeed. Part of me wanted to see him not succeed because I didn't want that embarrassment on the Lions. I didn't want the heartache as a Lions fan of, we quite literally wasted 12 years of this guy when he was a Super Bowl caliber quarterback the entire time, which in all honesty is a fact. I mean, we wasted 12 years of this guy. We gave him, in all reality, 3 legitimate chances at doing something with this roster, and it wasn't quite good enough. And that's just the truth. You know, I know in 2014 was probably their best shot, and you can say that they got screwed out of a playoff win. Fine, whatever. You still didn't win your division, 1. 2, you still didn't get it done. And that also is on Stafford. It's not just on Stafford, but it was on him as well. So to see him move on and immediately see the ultimate success, it's more than just bittersweet. Like, it hurts as a Lions fan because it just goes to show how impoverished our franchise is. Like, how bad of a franchise do we have in this town that this guy, the minute he leaves, goes and wins the Super Bowl?
That's why I will never understand people like Ninja, for example, saying that the Rams winning the Super Bowl is basically like the Lions winning a Super Bowl. This is me winning a Super Bowl now. And like, no, this is actually an embarrassment to your franchise.
Yes, it is.
that you literally had a Super Bowl quarterback for 12 years. You had a Hall of Fame wide receiver paired with him for most of those 12 years, and you couldn't even muster a playoff.
And even when he didn't have a Hall of Fame wide receiver paired with him, he still had Marvin Jones and Golden Tate, who were both 1,000-yard receivers. Like, it's not like his weapons disappeared when Calvin decided to retire.
Yeah.
He still had good offensive players.
Speaking of weapons, can we? I want to address this real quick. The broadcast team of Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth.
Chris Collinsworth shouldn't even have a job, first off.
Once OBJ went down and Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels saw like Stafford wasn't like the plays weren't being made, and the Rams offense was kind of running stagnant. They start talking about how Stafford without OBJ has no weapons out there, like he doesn't have the greatest receiver in the league on running routes out. Like I'm so confused.
Cooper Kupp. And Van Jefferson is no slouch. Like, sure, he's not a number one guy. He's not an OBJ. He's still pretty good. And I get it. His mind was probably elsewhere during that game as much as you can say that his mind was elsewhere during the Super Bowl. But, like, the guy's wife was in labor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
outside of the death in the family, that's the only thing that could take your mind off the Super Bowl when you're in the Super Bowl.
But frankly, the guy still had weapons to throw the ball to. Like, one in particular in Cooper Kupp. That's the best weapon you can have as a quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you cannot come out here and start throwing that shit around that Stafford doesn't have any weapons, and this is why the offense is stalling.
Chris Collinsworth has to have dirt on somebody high up at NBC because I have no legitimate reasons to give you why he has a job still. He is terrible. He has been terrible all year. He's still terrible, and he's going to be terrible as long as he has that job. He's not good at his job. Al Michaels, I like Al Michaels, but he actually could be going elsewhere in the before next season. Isn't he
retiring?
No, I've heard his contract's up, and he could be looking at another network.
Oh, okay.
Whether or not that's back at NBC, I don't know. But regardless, Chris Collinsworth should not have a job. And isn't he the one who said, I didn't know Matthew Stafford was actually as good as he is because I never really watched Lions games? It wasn't that him?
I don't know, but I wouldn't blame him if it was.
Okay, but your job as an analyst is to watch the premier names in the league. And Stafford, for a large part of his career, has been a premier name at quarterback in the league. At worst, top 15. At worst. You got to know who he is and how good he is. Like, that's just your job. Yeah. Your job is football. If my job was football, I would know every damn player in the league and what their tendencies are and which hand they wipe their ass with. Mm-hmm. Not even a laugh there. Wow. All right.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very accurate. Like, you should know whether they're right or left.
That's your job. But anyways, this show isn't about Chris Collinsworth and his awfulness. It's like, what kind of, if you're the Fords, you obviously watched that game. You obviously were probably sitting in your mega mansion cheering for your former quarterback. But if you're Sheila Ford, what are you thinking? Like, what is going through your head right now?
I don't know if I can even put myself in her head right now because I never know what the Fords are thinking. But
that's fair.
I can tell you, as a Lions fan, I'm feeling pretty hopeless right about now. I mean, it doesn't get much better than having a Super Bowl caliber quarterback and a Hall of Fame receiver and an at least average defense and still not want to play. Like, I don't know if we're ever going to have it until we have a full-on culture regime change, which, to his credit and to her credit, Sheila Ford and Dan Campbell have been, I guess, trying to do so far in the first year.
I'm going to stop you there. Sheila Ford hasn't done a damn thing to try to change the culture. That's on Campbell. That's
bring
on
it in Dan Campbell.
Sheila Ford hasn't done a damn thing.
But
don't give her credit where it's not deserved.
But just, in general, until we have a major uprooting of the status quo, the way things are going right now, I don't know if will ever happen, considering we literally just probably had a best case scenario in terms of talent in this city about 10 years ago and couldn't do anything with it.
And you're not wrong. And if I were Sheila Ford, I would be pretty embarrassed right now. I would feel like it's yet another Hall of Fame caliber player wasted. That hated playing for you so much that they either retired or begged for you to trade them. That's pretty embarrassing. That's as low as it gets. And don't get it wrong. I'm not saying Stafford is this, he didn't go somewhere and immediately become an MVP. Like he's still played his best seasons here in Detroit. There's no question about that. There are other quarterbacks in this league that could have won the Super Bowl for the Rams. He didn't immediately become this savior of LA.
Yeah, that generally doesn't happen from year 33 to year 34, year 32 to year 33, or however old he is.
That team absolutely was stacked around him. There's no question about it. Having OBJ, having Cooper Kupp on the offense, having a guy like Tyler Higbee. Yes, he was hurt during the Super Bowl. Yes, OBJ got hurt during the Super Bowl. But having depth players like Van Jefferson and Blanton and the other tight end, even though you didn't see Blanton at all, Hopkins, who played a really good game in the Super Bowl. Having Cam Akers and Sony Michel, who were absolute garbage, which, by the way, the lack of running game and ability to run the football, and in all honesty, terrible play calling and run scheme designed by Sean McVay was quite a big part of the reason why that offense sputtered as the game went on a little bit. That's a different conversation. But also on the defensive side of the ball, you have the best defensive lineman in football, maybe even in the history of the game, in Aaron Donald.
And you have the oldest defensive lineman maybe in the history of the game in A'Shaun Robinson.
He sure looks like it. Who, by the way, is an excellent run stopper. You have
he definitely looks like get off my porch guy. That's all I'm gonna say.
You have a former Super Bowl MVP as a pass rusher in Von Miller. You have probably the number one corner in the league in Jalen Ramsey. Like, that team was stacked, absolutely stacked. And yeah, that probably was the biggest reason why the Rams won the Super Bowl. But you know what? They were a 10-6 team last year with Jared Goff. They were a Super Bowl winning team this year with Matthew Stafford. That goes to show you could win with this guy. He was the next step up. He was the reason, he was that key piece that they were missing. So to anybody out there who asks whether or not who used to ask whether or not you could win with Matthew Stafford as your quarterback, that question's been answered. The answer is yes. And in all honesty, it really should have been answered in a Lions uniform, because you could kind of see it then, and you can obviously see it now. So if I'm the Ford family, I'm pretty embarrassed right now, and they should be. But
yeah, can we finally shift the focus to where the focus should be shifted to, instead of saying that? Because we all remember the narrative for the last 10 years with Stafford has been he's not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Like, as long as you have Stafford, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. And can we finally shift the narrative to, as long as the Fords are here, we're not going to win a Super Bowl? And
for some people, that is the narrative. And I've been in that belief for a while, until we can either change the entire mindset of the Ford family and how they run this football team, or get rid of the Ford family, we won't win a Super Bowl. So I'm hoping that this right here, your golden boy, the guy you drafted number 1 overall 12 years ago, the guy that was supposed to save your franchise and lead us to the promised land, goes and does it for another team the minute he leaves, is a wake-up call to the Ford family and the ownership group of this team to say, all right, what we've been doing clearly isn't working. We need to change things. We need to change culture. We need to change mindsets. Something else has to happen here, because the lack of success that we have had for the last 60 years is unacceptable. Playoff
for
games
one, I don't
is not
think
enough anymore.
I don't think we've gotten a winning coach anywhere near the caliber of a guy like Sean McVay, for example. Like, anywhere near.
No, they've never been willing to take a risk on a 34-year-old guy who's just a guru. They've never taken a risk like that. How many retread coaches have we brought in this town in the last 30 years? Mariucci.
Obviously, the jury's still out on Dan Campbell, but
he's
like,
not a
I think that's the first step here. If we're not getting rid of the Fords is getting coaching right, and we'll see if they did with Dan Campbell.
But you know what the difference is between what the Rams did with Sean McVay and what the Lions are doing with Dan Campbell is Sean McVay was looked at and believed to be an absolute football and offensive guru, an absolute genius of the game.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell's looked at as a leader of men, as a guy who can hype your team up.
Very right.
Not as a guru of either side of the ball. You look at Kyle Shanahan, another guy who's had good success over in San Francisco, went to an NFC championship with his team. And in all reality, with the roster that there's a lot to be desired there. You know, they don't exactly have a star quarterback in San Fran. They still went to the NFC championship. Kyle Shanahan's regarded and was regarded going into that job as one of the best offensive play callers in the league. You look at Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona. I know they had a terrible ending to their season, but guy's a young, exciting head coach, and he's an offensive guru. The Lions never take chances on guys like that. Never. They go after retreads.
No, sir.
They go after guys who hype up or are good Monday through Saturday coaches. They don't go after the guy who is a risk and take a chance on somebody who could be great. I'm not saying Dan Campbell can't be that guy, but if we're going to model this thing, if we're going to model the type of coach we want in this league, in a lot of cases, it is that guru. It is that guy that knows the game better than the other team, knows the other team's defense better than they do.
Yeah, right now, Dan Campbell has to prove to me that he can be anything more than an incredible assistant coach.
Right. And in all honesty, that's kind of what my thought process was with him last year. Like, he's really good at getting players to play up for him and getting excited and hyping them up. But can he manage a game? Can he call a game plan? That part I'm still not ready to say yes to. We saw improvements, but it wasn't enough. This team still only won, 3 games last year? 2 games?
3.
That's not good. And I know their roster is depleted, don't get me wrong, but he's also got to improve. And I expect him to. I liked what I saw out of Dan Campbell at the end of the year. I really did. But I need to see more.
But that's about all the Lions talk until we do 3 months of draft talk.
Yeah. We got a lot of draft talk, too, because of all the picks that we have. I mean, you're talking picks 2, 32, and 34. That's a lot to talk about right up at the top.
Yeah.
So, but in my opinion, and I'm going to, end all of my Lions talk for the week on this, I hope that this lights a fire under the Fords, lights a fire under this team, and I'm hopeful that we are headed in the right direction with this organization. I truly am. I like the guys that we've got making the decisions, and I like the guys that we've got on the sideline.
Agree.
Let's switch on over
that
to
sentiment.
here.
Yeah, trade deadline. Jerry McGrant's still a Piston. I was starting to have my doubts leading up to the trade deadline about whether we'd actually get a deal done for him, but I was soundly holding my breath that something would happen. Nothing ended up coming to fruition, but we did make a trade. We shipped out Trey Lyles and Josh Jackson, along with a couple of second-round picks. That one was a late second round, I believe, next year, and the other is a second rounder, like 5 years down the road, for Marvin Bagley, someone who has been on Troy Weaver's radar for quite a while now.
And somebody who was even offered to the Pistons as recently as last year.
For much more.
They called, and the Kings called and said, hey, I'll give you Marvin Bagley for Sadiq Bey. Troy Weaver hung up. As he should have.
Kind of like what Dallas did to us when we try to get Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. We'll
like
get
Cade.
Jalen Brunson for Cade. Yeah, goodbye. Click.
But
I wouldn't even let him finish saying Cade Cunningham. I would just goodbye.
It's such a cocky move on their GM's part, though. Like, we're inquiring to the like, hey, we like Jalen Brunson. Hey, we like Cade. Okay, you know what?
In all honesty, that's a good way for them to say, like, it's GM speak for them to say he's not available.
Yeah, but just say that.
He's being funny.
he's being cocky.
He's being funny. Anyways.
So one thing about the Marvin Bagley deal, it seems like another reclamation project. He was a first-round pick 3 years, or second overall pick 3 years ago, famously taking over guys like Luka Doncic, Trae Young, which I feel like is a bit unfair to him because it's not anything that he did. But at the same time, you're going to have your success pit against those guys, and right now they dwarf them in terms of what they've done in the league. But he certainly fills a hole on this roster, which is an athletic big. Does he have his deficiencies? Of course. May he never pan out? Yeah, I think the most likely scenario is you don't get that much out of him. But was it worth taking a stab at him and giving up Trey Lyles and Josh Jackson? Absolutely, in my opinion. Josh Jackson was already getting buried on the bench, wasn't getting much playing time at all. Hamidou Diallo has almost totally eclipsed him. And Trey Lyles, while there were some games where he'd come in and provide some instant offense, for the most part, he was relying on getting to the line. He provides zero athleticism, no defense. I don't want to sound mean, but I legitimately hated watching the guy play basketball. He did not look like he cared out there.
No, he really didn't. And it kind of goes back to the comments of I'd rather go anywhere but Detroit, basically. But, and I'm going to agree with you. I think it was worth taking a stab at him because what did you, in all reality, looking forward, what did you give up? Josh Jackson, probably a guy you weren't bringing back next year anyways because, well, his roster spot's been taken by Hamidou Diallo. Mm-hmm. Both Josh Jackson and Diallo were brought in as reclamation projects. What can we get out of these guys who have very high upside, just haven't made it happen yet in this league? Well, Diallo stepped up, Josh Jackson stepped back. And Diallo's played extremely well in the role that he's been given, which is the exact same role as Josh Jackson was given. And Diallo fits the scheme a little bit better. Trey Lyles, yeah, he's had some nice games. He's been an instant spark plug off the bench in some games, but like you said, he's a complete and utter defensive liability. He relies entirely on getting to the line. He's a ball stopper at times, and another guy who doesn't fit with the future of this team. He doesn't really fill a hole on this team. And
not to mention with Kelly Olynyk now coming back from injury, he's actually basically completely useless in this lineup. And also, he's a guy who you probably weren't having come back next year either. So you gave up two guys who weren't going to be here next year and 2 second-round picks, who one of which is a very late second-round pick next year, and the other one is like 4 or 5 years down the road that could be decently valuable, but who cares? If we're still worried about second-round picks 4 or 5 years down the road, then Troy Weaver should have been fired 2 years prior. Yeah.
So, frankly, I don't care about it. You gave 100%. Up, in my mind, zero to bring in a guy who's got high upside in Marvin Bagley, extremely athletic big, who was a number 2 pick at one point. Just a few years ago was a number 2 pick. And in all honesty, he was playing for a dog water franchise in Sacramento.
Dog water franchise.
What the hell have they developed? Tyrese Halliburton developed despite that team.
And what do? They ship them out.
Yeah, well, that's, again, dog water franchise. So in my opinion, this is a fresh slate for Marvin Bagley. He's got a lot of upside, and you are going to be able to develop him far better than anybody in Sacramento could. And you better, and in all honesty, you better be able to.
Yeah.
But looking at this trade, this is giving up zero actual value for another reclamation project. How is this different from the Hamidou Diallo trade, other than the fact that this guy probably has even more upside? Even more. Not
to mention, he has tools that he can use to immediately contribute to this team, even without making any improvements whatsoever. 10
points, 8 boards in his essentially first, and yes, his first game in the uniform. That's not bad.
Yeah. But one thing that I noticed off the bat, he checks in the Killian Hayes, Marvin Bagley pick and roll. That was something we were never able to see with guys like Trey Lyles off the bench.
No, because Trey Lyles moves like he's 100.
Yeah, Kelly Olynyk. We're not running pick and rolls with Kelly Olynyk. No. You might have a couple pick and pops, but that's about it. It allowed us to do things offensively that we had not been able to do all season. just with his skill set that he has right now. And that alone is going to open up your offense more. So even if he never develops past what he is right now, it's already a plus.
That alone may also help Killian Hayes' game.
Yeah.
Killian Hayes in recent time has actually played some halfway decent basketball. Mm-hmm. He's looked better. And I think Marvin Bagley will continue to help him and help him be a better player. Mm-hmm. Because, well, it's a threat. You know, that pick and roll can't really be ignored because Killian Hayes can get into the paint and create some penetration. He's got to be more aggressive and not shy away from contact, but Marvin Bagley can also roll off the pick and be electric in the roll. That's something you didn't have before. And if the guy can learn how to play even a lick of defense, you might have something here.
By the way, on a slight tangent, Blaha mentioned on the broadcast yesterday that the Pistons haven't won in D.C. since I believe he said 2014.
Really?
Which is so weird to me because we're not talking about the Warriors here.
No, the Washington's not really been that great of a team in the last decade.
Like, it's the oddest losing streak to me.
Yeah, that is weird. I mean, that's like saying the Wings hadn't won in Philly since '97 until like this past week. And you're talking some really good Wings teams and some not so great Flyers teams. And they finally did it this past week.
Philly at least have a period where they were pretty damn good in that span.
But we're talking over 20 years here.
Yeah, that's much longer than the Pistons drought.
And we're talking in that time frame, the Wings won 3 Stanley Cups.
True. The Wizards were at best the Pistons were at best a borderline playoff team, and the Wizards were at best a low-level playoff team. So in that time span.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, I 100% approve the trade. If you're worried about the second round picks, I'm of the opinion that is why we have, because those 2 second round picks weren't our own. Those were picks we traded for. And I'm of the opinion that this is why we bring in we try to collect second round picks and trade, is to be able to make trades like this. We're not giving up too much player talent. Projects. Yeah, and trying to
guys who used to have really high value that haven't quite, come to fruition with that value. You have those second round picks for that reason, so you can go get guys like that. It's how you got Diallo. Yeah. It's how you got Bagley. So that's good use of them in my mind. And again, like I said, if you're still worried about a second round pick 5 years from now, then Troy Weaver didn't do his damn job and should have been fired. Because as we start to see, because now the Pistons have taken over as the worst record in basketball, as we get closer to the end of the season and closer to that lottery and find out where this team is going to be picking, that clock on when we need to win is getting closer to midnight.
Yeah.
On Troy Weaver. And especially when you have 2 top 3 picks, one of them being a number 1 overall, potentially a second number 1 overall, but at worst it's a 3rd overall.
I think it can go as low as 5 technically, right?
If you're the worst record, I think 4? It's 3. If you have the worst record, I think it's 3.
Everyone has an equal shot at 1 through 3. I believe I think the farthest you can slip is 4 if you have the worst record. And you actually have like a 50% shot of winning at 4
to 3. I could be wrong on that, but
I'll tell you in a second. But continue.
Either way, you're still talking.
Oh, it's 5. Okay.
Either way, you're still talking 2 top 5 picks.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now,
number 1.
I could name 5 guys. Well, 4, maybe 5 guys right now that I can name 4 for sure that I'd be ecstatic to have, unless something changes between now and the draft. As of right now, there's 4 guys definitely I'd be ecstatic to have in this draft, and a couple more that I'm very intrigued by. So, I mean, outside of landing number 5, I don't think I'm going to be pissed.
I'll be straight with you. I think the league punishes the Pistons, and if they do end up with the highest odds,
and puts them at 5,
they're going to end up at 5. They're going to punish the Pistons for being so bad 2 years in a row, which that's life. But
I mean, like the youngest team, you can't blame us. But here, I'm sharing my screen right now. These are your odds. Which I still think the NBA lottery is the stupidest ever. But
the NBA lottery is the stupidest.
At number 1, you have 4. The top 3 have an equal shot of 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you're number 1, you're 4. If you don't land in that, your ball doesn't land for 1 through 4, then you're getting the 5th pick. But it's a 47.9% chance.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's really dumb. But regardless. this team with 2 top 5 picks and the rest of the roster that they have, that clock is going to get close to midnight starting this offseason.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't want to talk too far ahead here, but the offseason conversations that we're going to have about this team, post drafts, post free agency are going to be, this team needs to start competing. Whereas we said this past offseason, our ceiling for this team is a 9-10 team that could be maybe a play-in game type team. Well, the expectations are going to start to be that starting next year. And then it's going to be, you must be in the playoffs year 4 of this whole deal. So
yeah, because we've been saying like we are going to have money going into 2022 free agency, but again, the talent is minimal outside of restricted free agents, DeAndre Ayton and Miles Bridges. There's not really much that you're going to want. So what I'm hoping is if we don't land one of those guys, again, we still have to spend 90% of our cap. So I hope Troy does a bunch of team-friendly deals and is able to move some stuff around and create enough cap space to actually compete again in 2023. But we'll see. Right.
Either way, this team's going to have to start winning pretty soon with the picks that they're going to have. There's no question about it.
Oh, yeah.
But
100%.
Moving on now to Jeremy Grant. I wanted to touch on this before we end things here. Yeah. Are you at all disappointed that the Pistons didn't move Grant at the deadline?
I think the best word to describe it is like I'm kind of bummed. Like, again, I've been preparing myself for the probability that it's probably not going to end up moving him until maybe even draft day. But in general, Troy Weaver had a price, 2 first-round picks, and he was in no position to move. He knew he had the leverage. He knew he wasn't desperate to move him. He knew if someone wanted Jeremy Grant, they were going to have to come to him and meet his price. And apparently no one did come and meet his price. But it does beg the question, is asking 2 first-round picks too much for Jeremy Grant? I think we're going to have to reevaluate that come the offseason. But right now, considering you weren't insanely desperate to move him at the deadline, knowing you have another great opportunity this offseason to move him, I don't mind him having set the price 2 first-round picks and just use his leverage of not being desperate to trade and see what happens. I'm not upset at it. I'm bummed we didn't move him because I would have liked to, but I'm not upset.
And I think that's a pretty fair statement. And I agree with you for the most part that I'm not bummed we didn't move him. I am a little bit bummed that we didn't move him because I would have liked to, go after a guy like Anthony Simons or Karis LeVert or Domantas Sabonis, one of those names out there.
So Simons broke out just the right time for us not to be able to get him.
Right. But am I upset we didn't move him? No, not necessarily, because there are, like you said, there is still opportunity for us to move him. Draft day is a big potential. We could end up with another top 10 pick for Jeremy Grant or another first round pick for Jeremy Grant, something. I do think this offseason is when you got to move him. And
it is going to bug me knowing that Tyrese Halliburton was somehow available, and
yes,
I don't know if Troy just didn't know, or if Jeremy Grant and something else wouldn't have been enough to get it done. I don't know.
In all reality, Sabonis is a far higher value player than Jeremy Grant. Like, I don't think you would have been able to get Halliburton.
Would you have given up Sabonis and a 2024 first? Well, actually, we can't trade our first right now, so disregard me. But never mind.
Mean Grant in a first?
Yeah, sorry.
I would, but we can't trade the first.
Yeah, we can't trade the first. So,
but I do think the offseason is the time that you have to move him, because that is when his value will likely still be at its peak. Mm-hmm. The contract is worth money. He comes in fresh. He's not dealing with, because I do think part of the reason he wasn't moved is because of the fact that he hasn't been able to stay healthy for 2 years. If you add in a third straight year of that. One, his contract now looks terrible outside of the fact it's expiring. I'm talking the contract you offered him. 2, he's not of use to any playoff team at that point because he's nothing more than an expiring deal.
And I'm not saying to sell him for pennies on the dollar this offseason, but maybe you want to lower your price and try to meet some teams in the middle, because we're not re-signing him. Let's put that out there right now.
Frankly, the timeline doesn't fit. He doesn't fit with your lineup. It's evident at this point that he doesn't fit with your lineup. It is either Bay or him. It's not both.
Yeah.
Even without Cade in the lineup, that's been the case. And frankly, again, I think if you wait until next year's trade deadline, the value can only go down. It will not go up. Yeah. Unless he just has an otherworldly season. But
a 1 year rental with an expiring deal is a lot more valuable than getting him for a couple months and then being forced to reckon to resigning him.
Especially if he's still dealing with injury issues. That is my biggest worry, is if he's still dealing with injury issues next year, his value's in the tank.
Here's the positive part of that is, though, that his injury, for example, this year, it's not like something that's going to affect him the rest of his career. It was a thumb injury.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But it does show, if he is dealing with injuries again next year, it does show that he's got an inability to stay healthy, which playoff teams don't want. And that immediately reduces your price at that point. So, I'm fine with them not dealing him this deadline, but I do think the time to move him has to be this offseason, because the price the price can still be high and you can still get what you want for him.
Yeah.
Is that first round pick and highly valued young asset? I think that's a little too much for Jeremy Grant, if you ask me.
Maybe you can get a first round pick.
Maybe you can get a first round pick.
Something to match salaries.
A lottery pick, or a guy who's a really good young asset, one of those two. I'd be fine with either one of them at this point for Jeremy Grant. Going into this offseason, if you deal him on draft day and you get something like that, sweet, I'm happy with it. But this offseason, if they don't deal him, then I will be disappointed and wonder what exactly is happening.
I'm curious if there are any contenders that own lottery picks this year. I wonder, would the Lakers, if they stay in the lottery, would a team like the Lakers be interested in trading their draft pick for Jeremy Grant?
I don't know if they own their pick.
I don't know either. I'm just spitballing.
I don't think they do. The Lakers. The thing is with the Lakers is they have nothing of value to trade anybody. That's why they couldn't get a deal done. The Lakers are just in a pit of despair as it pertains to assets.
Their pick would be of value if it's in a lottery, though.
If they own it, which I don't think they do.
Yeah. I'm just saying, theoretically, but actually, they do own it. The only team right now that's in the lottery that doesn't own their pick is the Pelicans. If the pick falls to 8,
their pick belongs to the Pelicans.
Well, then Tankathon's page isn't updated.
Sorry, it belongs to the Grizzlies right now because of.
I'm misusing.
It belongs
this.
to the Grizzlies.
Yep, Lakers and Pelicans don't own their pick currently. Right. Okay.
I think both technically go to the Grizzlies, if I recall. So the Lakers have nothing of tangible value.
No, maybe a team like Atlanta. I mean, I feel like Jeremy Grant would be a good fit there if they stay in the lottery.
That's potential, yeah. Jeremy Grant could work out there. I don't know exactly what's going on in Atlanta.
Sign and trade with Charlotte for Miles Bridges.
You could sign and trade for Anthony Simons too. I mean, there's a couple options out there. I wouldn't hate that idea, honestly. Is it the sexiest thing? No, but could it potentially be of high value? Yeah, I do think Simons and Bridges are guys that could help you in a big way.
But speaking of the Grizzlies, that is a team that is a current contender. That if the Lakers pick falls past 10, then the Grizzlies would own it and maybe be willing to trade it.
They might.
Jeremy Grant.
For Jeremy Grant, I think Jeremy Grant would work real well on that team too. As long as they can get rid of that ball stopping mentality and convince him to take a step back in the offensive role that he plays. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'd give up Jeremy Grant for number 11 or 12 in the draft.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so we're stuck with Jeremy Grant for a couple months. Not that it's the worst thing in the world.
But I don't mind watching him play as long as he shows value.
It is very annoying that the personal losing streak that he's on. Pistons haven't won a game with Jeremy Grant in the lineup since mid-November. Yeah,
it's not pretty. The Pistons themselves, aren't they on a 9-game losing streak too?
They're at least, if not close to it then. But
yeah, things have not been good.
There was a tweet that I retweeted on our Twitter page at Real Fan Report. It was from, what's his name? Ben Gulker of the Detroit Bad Boys. So he said the Pistons have not won a game in which Jeremy Grant has played since November 17, 2021. They've lost 5 in a row since his return by a combined 73 points, or an average of 15 points a game. And I added to that, they played their best basketball of the season during that month and a half stretch that he was out, with 8 or 12 wins coming in that span. Like, again, it's a guy whose game I really like, but it's becoming increasingly clear that the direction this team is going, he doesn't fit.
Right. And like, I think the most glaring thing absolutely is the fact that this team played their best ball without him. And that, the best stretch of their season was while he was hurt. And, the team wasn't the team wasn't terrible while he was gone. And now that he's back and while he's played, they have been terrible this year. So it's pretty evident that he just doesn't work here, and it's time to move on. That's part of the reason why I was a little bit miffed that he wasn't traded at the deadline. I'm fine with them not being willing to just give him away, but you saw all the trades that went on. You saw CJ McCollum get moved. You saw Tyrese Halliburton get moved. Sabonis, LeVert. You saw all these names get moved, and you weren't involved in any of it. And you had one of those prized assets that teams wanted.
Yeah.
So it is a little annoying. Again, not overly mad about it, but I would have liked to see the Pistons have been involved in some of that stuff. Anything else to add?
About all I got on this team until next week.
Yeah, I mean...
Now we watch Marvin Bagley and see what happens.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Cade should have gotten an all-star nod over a guy like Jared Allen? Because I have seen a little bit of talk on Twitter about it.
I think Jared Allen totally deserved it.
And I agree with you. I think Jared Allen absolutely deserves it, and I would have been
I was shocked that LaMelo and DeJounte Murray didn't get it initially and were replacements.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising. Honestly, DeJounte Murray is almost a superstar at this point, the way he's played. He's so good.
And no one talks about it, I feel like.
No, nobody talks about it, which is ridiculous because he's been so good all year. He's a walking triple-double machine.
Yeah, no, I don't think Cade should have gotten a All-Star game nod, no.
No, I don't think so either.
I will be interested to watch him in the Skills Challenge and in the Rising Stars competition. I do wish that him and Sadiq and V-Stu were all on the same team during the Rising Stars competition, but alas, it's not the case.
No.
Sadiq and V-Stu are, but Cade's on his own.
Yeah, it would have been fun to watch 3 of them together. There was two guys that were playing together that I was really intrigued about watching.
The Rising Stars competition?
Yeah. Was it Mobley and Cade? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think they are together. I'm pulling
that one was one that was really intriguing for.
I'm pulling up the rosters right
now. Seeing those two guys playing together.
Yeah, so Cade's team is him.
Yep.
Dyson Daniels from the G League Ignite, which I think is a very interesting addition to the Rising Stars. So we have players who aren't in the NBA, like Jaden Hardy, is going to be in the Rising Stars competition. But anyway, Cade Cunningham, Dyson Daniels, Evan Mobley, Isaac Okoro, Alperen Şengün, Jay Sean Tate, and Franz Wagner.
I'll tell you right now, Team
not
Isaiah.
Quite a bit of size on that team.
I'll tell you right now, Team Isaiah is going to dominate.
Oh, with
Sadiq Bane, Edwards, Halliburton, Hardy, that team's going to dominate.
And they have probably the best non-NBA player in the Rising Stars competition in Jane Hardy. Yeah.
That team Peyton is pretty good too, though. LaMelo, Barnes, Ayo Dosunmu,
that's a really
Duarte,
good team.
That's a good team.
It's just who's really going to handle the ball there. That's what I'm curious about.
LaMelo.
Because both LaMelo, Ayo, Scotty's are really good to handle the ball. David Mitchell, I guess he's okay handling the ball. But yeah, between LaMelo and Ayo, I think they're both ball dominant guys.
Yeah, but they'll figure it out. It's not a big roster.
Yeah.
But either way, when is the All-Star weekend?
This upcoming weekend.
Okay. All right.
So if you want to have some viewing parties, let me know.
Yeah, maybe we can. It's. I can't say I'm really excited about All-Star Weekend because I don't think there is an All-Star Weekend that I'm excited about anymore in any of the sports because they're all terrible. But we at least have something to watch.
Yeah.
With Cade, Bay, and Stewart. So
that's why I'm interested to see our guys on Friday, and then I'm interested to see how Cade does in a skills challenge.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
I mean, I can't even say I'm really interested. I'm just.
I think the way they're doing the skills challenge this year is really interesting. Like the two Kumbo brothers play together, and then the rookies together, and then for some reason the Cavs.
That just goes to show how gimmicky the whole thing is.
I mean, they should, like, if they're doing that to the Kumbo brothers, then they should have done the Ball brothers with, like, that'd be another team.
What they should do is the Antetokounmpo brothers, the Ball brothers, and then the Jokic brothers. Just a 3-on-3.
You gotta at least have G League minutes to qualify.
But how funny would that be?
All right, fine. The Curry brothers and father.
That'd be sweet.
Which I think they've done that before.
I think
they used to do the shooting stars competition.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
I don't know if Seth was in it, but I'm pretty sure Steph and Dell were both in it.
That one would be fun too. 4 teams of 3, just play 3-on-3 ball.
And I'm also interested to see Jalen Green in the dunk contest with the kind of hops that guy has. I don't
like anything.
Curious to see what he's going to do.
I don't like anything about Jalen Green. We don't like him in this town. We don't understand. Anyways. All right, that is going to call it for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. Andrew, thank you for joining me. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters by fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Enjoy your All-Star weekend, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.
Peace.